Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life. If you're a regular listener of the Miracle You podcast, or even if you've listened to it from time to time, or maybe even familiar with the Imagine Miracles work, you've heard me talk about wake-up calls quite a bit. And I've shared many times that there's conscious wake-ups or crisis wake-ups. Well, one of the most devastating crisis wake-ups is a divorce. We get married or we choose a relationship believing that it's going to be for a lifetime. And we do our best to make it work. But sometimes things happen in that relationship that we just can't seem to go forward with. When I call the divorce a wake-up call, it's really about giving us an opportunity to wake up to who we are, find who we are inside, learn to love ourselves, learn to trust ourselves, learn to empower ourselves. And in doing that, we can step then further into our life and attract a partner into our life that is supporting, that is empowering, that is there to help you walk on your journey and not just be someone that pulls you along or that you have to push along the way. It's very important for us to realize that a wake-up call is not just waking up to the life that we're meant to live, but it's truly waking up to who we are. And when we start living from that place, now we're truly going to attract those things in our life that help us live our unique purpose. I'm with Leah Mazur today. Leah is a certified divorce recovery coach for women and founder of Mindfully Ready, LLC. She specializes in helping women release guilt, shame, and feelings of failure so that they can find acceptance, rebuild their self-confidence, and thrive after divorce. She also provides a safe, judgment-free community for women rebuilding after divorce in her private Facebook group, Divorced and Empowered. Leah, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
Absolutely.
I'm so happy to have you here today. This is the first time that I've delved into the divorce category in the podcast, so I can't wait to share, especially around the parts that you're sharing that we all need to release the guilt and shame from our lives, and then especially find a way to empower ourselves and move into a higher self-esteem. So I'm so happy that you're with me today. Could you share a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing before we dive into some of these questions?
Yes. So as you mentioned in that beautiful introduction, certified divorce recovery coach for women. And so I work one-on-one with women, helping them kind of process the emotions, all of that internal stuff that happens when you're going through a divorce, such a huge life transition, just helping support them rebuild their self-confidence, rebuild their self-esteem, and gain clarity on what it is they want next so that I can give them clear, actionable steps to help them get to that next chapter and make things a lot less overwhelming.
I noticed that each and every one of us have some things happen in our lives that get our attention, start moving us in a direction to share of more of who we are, what we're here to bring to the world. What were your wake-up calls as you moved into being a divorce recovery coach?
Mm-hmm. My wake-up call was my second divorce. And I can go a little bit into that too, to tell you how I got there, if you'd like to hear a little more
Yes,
detail.
please.
So I'll take you back a little bit. When I was 16 years old, I actually witnessed my mom have an asthma attack in her home and pass away. She was only 41. As you can imagine, that was very traumatic. And then only 5 years later, my dad died of pancreatic cancer. So by 21 years old, I was alone in the world. I'm an only child. And what I didn't know at the time is my coping mechanism became hopping from one relationship to the next. I had a deep-seated fear of being alone. I had abandonment issues that I didn't know about. And so I was hopping from relationship to relationship, essentially to just stay afloat. And so then by my second divorce, I realized, okay, something's happening here. I'm obviously in some kind of a pattern. If I really want to find happiness and find fulfillment, I'm going to need to do something differently. And so that's when I really faced my fear of being alone and completely invested in rebuilding my self-confidence and my self-esteem. And then I basically took all of those tools and methods and created a framework for other women who are going through divorce now.
There's so many divorces in our world right now, and a lot of it, I think, comes from the place of we grab a hold of a partnership that doesn't necessarily um, empower us, doesn't necessarily take us on a journey together that we're meant to be on. It's more of a, well, you fill the need, or you help me put this belief aside for a while, and then we find out, wow, well, there's more. Let me ask you this, because it's and I apologize if I dig too deep here. Just say, Vince, I really don't want to talk about that. But did you find in your first marriage and even in your second marriage that you got to a place where the abandonment wasn't necessarily filled, or the abandonment scare was already came up and that affected your relationship?
It was more along the lines of my fear of being alone caused me to settle in a relationship. So I was choosing the wrong partners to begin with and kind of talking myself out of that because I knew that being with someone felt better than being by myself.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then as you got deeper into the relationship, how did you realize that that wasn't fulfilling the true need that you had?
I realized that I had rushed into both relationships. Um, and I realized that I was with people who really we were not compatible in a way that you need to be to have a successful long-term relationship. There were too many things missing, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. We were just not aligned. And those were things that I didn't even know the importance of, things that I should have been paying attention to before those relationships, because what was most important was that I found someone. I have someone who, especially after my first marriage, when I had a daughter, I felt like, who's going to want me now? Now I have all this baggage. Now I have this child and I've been divorced. And so finding someone who essentially took that on, I felt like, well, if I found, this nice person who's willing to take me on and not see this as baggage, how many more opportunities will I have? How many chances will I have? And so that's how I wound up settling for people who really just didn't make a good team with.
Right. Settling. Do you see that most of us settle just because we're afraid that we're not going to be acceptable?
I do see that happen often. I think that fear of being alone or feeling that unworthiness, thinking, well, who's going to want me? Am I lovable? Is there something wrong with me? And so we tend to, once somebody gives you that kind of attention or shows you that interest, um, it becomes something that is like that's the reason that you want to try to make that relationship work, as opposed to, are you good enough for me? Do you have what I need and what I'm looking for? Are you adding value to my life? Because when we come from this place of lack or fear, we're using those partners as that external validation. We're essentially taking them to fill the voids that we have in ourselves. And so that's why it's so important to get yourself to a place where you feel fulfilled all by yourself. Then you're a lot more likely to find your ideal partner because you have high standards and strong deal breakers, and you know what you need and what you want.
You alluded to this, and this is a question I think is very important for everyone, but I would love the imagination to hear from your perspective. And we share this a lot in Imagine Miracles, that to love, to empower, to truly support others, you have to find all of that stuff in yourself first. Could you talk to, first of all, how you feel about that, and then how you help people start moving in that direction?
Yes, 100%. I mean, every single relationship you have is based on the relationship you have with yourself. So it does have to start with you, how you show yourself love, how you show yourself respect, how you set boundaries with yourself. That's all going to be projected onto all the relationships that you have. And so when it comes to kind of filling your own cup and having that self-confidence, if it's a person who really isn't in that place and they want to get to that place, one of my favorite exercises is reaching out to at least 5 people that you're comfortable with, friends, family, coworkers. It could be more than 5, but at least 5. And then ask them 3 words that they think best describe you. And when you get that back, put it all on one piece of paper so that you can see it all in one place. And that is such a powerful exercise, because what you're doing is you're essentially calling in for reinforcements. When you're at a place where you're struggling to see your strengths, to see the good things that you have to offer, to see who you really are, you can use this as an opportunity to hear what other people who care about you think, the people who aren't caught in your own negative self-talk, and have that as reminders for all of the things that you really are. And you can reference that list as many times as you need to. And so it's things like that, celebrating your strengths, embracing who you are, forgiving yourself for mistakes. I mean, that is such a huge thing, is that self-forgiveness, because a lot of people struggle with that need to be perfect. They strive for perfection. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, you're in the wrong species if you're looking to be perfect. I mean, human design is imperfect. And so striving for that is really nothing but a disappointment. It's going to get you caught in that rut. So it's letting go of perfection, forgiving yourself for your mistakes, and trying to find the silver linings there, trying to find the benefits. What did you learn? What wisdom did you gain from that experience? How did you grow? What do you have now that you didn't have before? Those are ways you can shift your perspective to try to release that guilt and kind of that self-defeating inner dialogue.
We like to share that there's a gift in each and everything that happens in our lives, and the circumstances that happen aren't mistakes or coincidences. They're truly taking you on a journey that will help you be more of who you're meant to be, especially as you get to that place where you're ready to share, you're ready to start serving. I like the way that you said that we get to this point where we can't see ourselves the way other people see us. Especially in the US, we're trained to fix problems, first of all. So we're always looking for problems. And where's the best place to find a problem? Inside of ourselves. But then we also have the self-talk that goes on with the subpersonalities that tell us what other people think, and they're telling us what they think based on not wanting us to be hurt. So can we step back? Can we stay away from them because they're seeing the negative in us? So I think it's so powerful that you share to get people's insight, because we really don't understand what people see in us, and we haven't learned to see ourselves in other people. So that makes it a little tough for us. So let's talk a little bit about law of attraction, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
If we're in this space of having these fears, having these beliefs, really being needy, what we tend to attract into our lives are those people that are very similar. And
Yeah.
when you need someone to be there for you, You're attracting someone that inside of themselves needs to be there for someone. How does that really affect us as we start looking for um, people who are more in alignment with what we really want to be at the heart? How does that affect us?
Mhm. It's huge. I mean, we date at the same level as our self-esteem. So if you're coming from a place of fear or lack, then that's kind of the vibration you're putting out. And those are the kind of people you're going to be attracting. So when you get yourself to a place where you feel good about who you are, you're confident in yourself and your abilities, you can fulfill your own wants and needs, and you don't feel like you need a relationship in order to validate yourself. You don't need one to feel whole, happy, fulfilled, enough, beautiful, worthy, anything. Then you're in the most powerful place because you'll be attracting people that are similar, people who maybe have done the work themselves, people who have maybe gone to therapy themselves and hold themselves accountable and take responsibility and have healed themselves from their own trauma and their own relationships. And so when you're at that place, that's the vibration that and the frequency that you're at, and those are the kinds of people that you're going to be bringing into yourself.
So guilt and shame really takes us to a place of I either did something wrong or there's something wrong with me. When it comes to people that have experienced a divorce, and I've been there as many have, in the experience of divorce, where do we go first? Do we start when we turn it inside? Because I know there's the turning it outside of blame, but when we turn it inside and we start looking at guilt and shame, which is the strongest for most people, guilt or shame?
Guilt, especially if they're parents.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And as a parent, then how do you move beyond doing everything for what's on the outside? And how do you start turning it on the inside? Because I understand what you're saying as a parent. It's like, oh, now I'm so responsible for this person and I got to help them move on, rebuild, grow, accept. But how do you take the time to turn it inside as a parent? Because you really have to do that for yourself before you can even do it for your child.
That's right. And that is a very powerful insight in and of itself is I need to take care of me in order to be the best I can for them. And I think people forget that. I think we're taught that when we become parents, we sacrifice, 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 like we're putting everybody else first and then we put ourselves on the back burner. But essentially, you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to prioritize yourself. And so when it comes to guilt, um, what's important to remember, this is like something a powerful question that I usually ask, the moms that I coach is, if your child had been in the same situation that you were just in, what would you want them to do? Right? Because they feel so guilty. And now now we have a broken home. Maybe I gave up. Now I'm a failure, right? But really, if your child had been in that situation and they felt the same way that you did, and the same things were happening to them that were happening to you, what would you want them to do? And 100% of the time, the answer is I would have wanted them to leave. I wouldn't want them to just suck it up and deal with it, right? Happiness and health and your well-being is important. And so that's a way to really shift your perspective on that self-criticism is saying, well, you know what? I can love me and I can want the best for me and take action to do that for myself and not feel guilty about it, because that's exactly what I want the people who I love to do.
The example that we share for our children is much more important than what we tell them, or even how we sacrifice ourselves to help them on their journey. If they see us living a different life than that, that's what they're going to take away from it. And they're either going to go one of two ways. They're going to be just like us, or they're going to be as completely opposite of us as they can through that process. So if we're noticing that there's a gift, if we notice that there's a wake up call in the things that are happening in our lives, when people wake up to the fact that, okay, this divorce does have a gift in it for me, how do you help people, first of all, find that there's a gift in it? And second of all, then how do you take them through the process to release the guilt, the shame, the feelings of failure?
So, well, as far as the process, some of that just comes from working with me directly so that I can really figure out what's at the root of that. Because at the root of that feeling of guilt is an inner dialogue, right? So, what conversation are you really having with yourself? And can you prove that to be true? Or is that just a limiting belief that we need to shift? A great exercise in order to kind of start seeing the gifts, like you say, is to sit down and really brainstorm all of the benefits, the silver linings to this situation. Because no matter how bad things feel, even if you feel like your world is crumbling around you, things could always be worse, always. And that's not to discredit what's going on or your feelings, but it's the truth. So really try to think about all the things you still have to be grateful for. Think about the things that you're gaining that you didn't have before. Now, they could be as small as, well, now I get the whole bed to myself. Well, now I don't have to argue with anyone anymore or tell people, tell them where I'm going. Now I can save or spend my money the way that feels right for me. You can come and go as you please. Any small thing. I don't have to clean up after someone else anymore, right? Start small, but think about what you have now, what benefits you can pull from this situation. And then when you start doing that, you start shifting your perspective from that lack to abundance. And then that's going to change the way you feel.
And then as we change the way we feel, and this is more for the imagination than anything else, as we change the way we feel, we raise our vibration. If we raise our vibration, now we can start making the changes or the transformations that we want in our lives. Because if we're coming from that lower vibration, we're coming from victimhood, and coming from victimhood doesn't allow us to take responsibility and truly create the life that we want to create. So we get to that place where we're feeling better about ourselves, and we want to attract someone in our life that is empowering, is loving, is a partner, as you said earlier, someone to walk hand in hand with us. The best way to do that is to become that person first. And it's not, and I really would love for you to talk to this subject here. We tend to say, okay, well, if I want to attract that kind of person, then I'm going to be this way. And now you're just putting on another mask for the world. How do you help people find themselves and then start living from that place?
Mm-hmm. So it's about paying attention to how you feel. That's how you make sure that you're in alignment, because everyone's different. And so when you're going through the process of a divorce and you're at that place where you're just trying to find yourself again, really tune in with yourself and ask yourself, well, what do I enjoy? What excites me? What lights me up? What am I naturally drawn to or naturally good at? And when you do those things, pay attention to how you feel. If you feel excitement, happiness, pleasure, gratitude, joy, those are all very high vibrational feelings. And so that's how you know that you're on the right path and you're in alignment. And when you make decisions based on what feels most in alignment to you, you can't go wrong. I mean, you're right, you're on the right path. And so really tuning into yourself, paying attention to how you feel. And this is a way to also help you stop being a people pleaser and start setting boundaries. Pay attention to how you feel. If someone asks you to do something and your initial feeling is, no, I don't want to do that, but then I'll feel guilty if I don't, right? Guilt goes back to the low vibration. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to, and then you have to communicate that honesty, right? And so if you say, you have to be able to say like no, or no thank you, or I'm not interested, or however you want to word it. But then you're staying in alignment. You're not doing something that you don't really want to do. And so every time you make a choice, you can ask yourself, does this feel like it's in alignment, or does it feel like it's going against my authentic truth?
Imagine Miracles, and especially the Miracle You, is about helping people find hope, realizing that you're not alone, realizing that there's a path to where you want to go. Could you share some of the experiences that you've had with clients, or maybe even yourself, to give people hope, to give them an understanding of, there is light at the end of the tunnel, shall we say? And I know that you work with women specifically, but men go through the same thing through this process, and sometimes in different ways, but they still find themselves hopeless. They still find themselves thinking that it's never going to work for me. Could you give some examples of how it's worked?
Well, it's worked for a lot of my clients and it's worked for me. After years of relationships failing and two failed marriages, and I thought for sure I was going to be alone for the rest of my life. But when I really started focusing on my self-talk, my self-esteem, my confidence, filling my own cup, it changed my whole life. And I met the love of my life. I'm in the healthiest, happiest relationship I've ever been in, with a partner who I'm aligned with on all levels. And that's just one example. I have a group, anyone who, any woman who's listening can join. It's called Divorced and Empowered on Facebook. It's a private group of women all recovering from or going through a divorce. And there's tons of success stories in there, of people, but it all starts with you. It really starts with how you feel about you. And if you don't feel great, then you have to really take action and make it a priority to start shifting those thoughts and shifting those feelings, and perspectives. And so if you need to, if you're really struggling to do that, then get support, because you don't have to stay stuck and you're not alone. There's people who are going through something probably very, very similar to what you're going through as well. And there's always a way out. There's always an answer. There's always a new door that will open. You just have to be open to receiving.
And I think it's powerful when we find a community that is willing to support us, not waller in our pain with us. I mean, that happens so much. Believe it or not, we're getting close to our end of our time, and I want to give you an opportunity to share something with the imagination that you want them to take away from our time together and hold on to as they move forward in their lives.
So one thing that I really hope you take away is really believing that you are not alone and that anything that you desire is possible. But you have to believe that first, because if you don't, then you're right.
It's so true. And whatever our thoughts are, that is our truth in that moment. So being aware of what those thoughts are so important. Leah, how can people get in touch with you and learn more about the work that you're doing?
You can just visit mindfullyready.com. That's mindfullyready.com. I have a free empowerment guide and training video to help you gain acceptance, build your self-esteem, and gain clarity on what you want next. So that's a great free resource. You can also schedule a one-on-one consultation with me. You could join my private Facebook community, Divorced and Empowered, to connect with other women recovering from and rebuilding after divorce. And then I also have an online course I'll be launching soon, and I do offer one-on-one coaching as well.
And I encourage everybody to go to themiracleu.com and look for Leah's show page, get all that information on how you can get in touch with her. That free gift I was checking out already. It's an awesome free gift. And with about half of the marriages ending in divorce right now. And I just did some research for a talk that I'm doing, and about 75% of the people are dissatisfied in their main relationship. And yes, it's very powerful to pick yourself up after the fact, and very helpful for you to attract someone in your life then that brings that joy that you just shared with us in your current relationship. But I want everybody to realize that you can do this work and find yourself even in a marriage.
Sure.
And finding yourself in that marriage might change the relationship. It might not, and it might be time to move on. But you might be surprised as you find yourself, as you become more secure yourself, as you don't need someone to give you all the juice to keep you going, you might find your relationship change also. Leah, thank you so much for being with us today. You shared such great information, and I can see the passion in your eyes and your face. I can feel your heart as you share what you're doing in the world. Thank you for using your experiences to help others find their way to loving themselves, to supporting themselves, so then they can find that love and support in another. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
On behalf of my wife and business partner, Mary, the entire team here at Imagine Miracles, we want to wish each and every one of you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleyou.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 mind-awakening steps toward your unique purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleyou.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.